And that was the first time I'd really had a back issue in a year. And so, I'd sold my back doc and the other day, and she was amazed that with the condition of my back that I don't have to get an epidural every quarter. They're like, you can do this every 3 months if you need to. And I'm like, nope, not going to do that. And so she was actually, amazed with my flexibility. And, I can actually touch my toes, which I didn't even think because I've never tried to do it recently. But, she had me do that and I was able to do that. And I was like, damn. Even though I feel stiff and the back feels stiff at times, I'm now seeing those improvements again. I'm feeling those improvements, doing the exercises. It's results driven. I mean, everything's results driven, and realizing that the results on my end are up to me.
What's up, my friend? I'm health expert Ted Rice, and welcome back to another episode of the Legendary Life Podcast. This show is all about breaking down science-based information on how to lose fat, prevent disease, and live a longer, healthier, legendary life. In today's interview, I interview one of my clients, Nick Meacher, who had been struggling to lose weight, been struggling with so many other areas in his life during our coaching experience, especially when the COVID-19 situation hit. And I want to ask you, have you been struggling as well? Have you been struggling with your weight loss? Have you been struggling trying to make progress? Maybe you're out of work. Maybe you're in an uncertain situation. Maybe you feel like the stress is on and you're looking for that breakthrough. Well, Nick had been struggling for a long time and he made that breakthrough. And today I interview him on all the different parts and pieces, strategies, tactics, techniques that he used to put himself on a path to not only losing more weight, but to turning his situation around to business-wise, so financially, just making an all-together turnaround in his life so that he is on this path to being more financially successful this year and losing an additional 50 pounds by the end of the year. If that's what you're interested in, if you want to hear a comeback story, I've got one in store for you today. Now, before we jump into it, I want to ask you, have you joined our Legendary Life Comeback Challenge? If not, how would you like a week free of coaching from me on how to lose weight and how to get your mindset in the right state so that effortlessly follow through on your fat loss goals, on your health goals, on taking your physique, your health, your energy levels, your positive emotional state to that next level? If you'd like a week to work with me and do it for free, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/coaching. And I'm telling you why I'm doing this. I do this, one, to give back to you, because information doesn't equal transformation. You must take action to get the transformation. You must take action to get the breakthrough. And I feel like if I didn't do some type of experience in addition to this podcast, I would be selling you short. And the second reason I do it is because I know some of you have been dying to work with me because you've seen the great results. You've heard the great results that we get with our clients, but you want to test the waters out first. And I'm cool with that because I'm 100% confident in what I offer. So if that's either of those people or you, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/challenge, sign up for it now. Let's hop into this conversation with my coaching client and friend, Nick Meacher. Nick Meacher, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah. And I'm struggling with my voice a little bit. I kind of lost it from doing a lot of talking, but we're going to rock and roll anyway, because I know you have such a valuable story to share with the listeners about your recent breakthrough.
Yeah. I mean, where do you want me to start?
I think we should start by saying that a lot of people may not have heard our last interview and that you've been a one-on-one client for a long time now.
Yep.
And I think it's important to mention that you and I, we both been investing in ourselves for a long time. In fact, we met at a personal development boot camp, but it was it was for dating. That's how we got suckered into it, right? Meaning like we thought we were going to learn about dating, but what it was really about was learning about ourselves and learning how to communicate with other people, whether there were women or guys.
Yep.
And we've been on this journey for a while. You ended up working with me, signing up with me as a client, as a coaching client to lose weight. You've lost 40 pounds with me, but in the past, let's say 6 months or so, actually a bit longer, I think, you've been a bit stuck. And you and I, we've been going back and forth. And we had this story, we had this situation rather. It's like, man, Nick's really stuck. He's not making progress. I don't know what to do. But then something happened, and we'll get into what that is and what happened. And man, you've just, I don't want to say magically started making progress again, but you started making progress, right? You got back on track. You got through that plateau, that quagmire, that whatever you want to call it, that rough patch that you were working through. Can you walk us through what started happening, how you get off track, and then how you've made this recent breakthrough?
Well, it's not easy to describe. I mean, you and I have talked about this quite a few times, and a lot of it, I guess, comes down to the mental attitude, the goal, the vision, and keeping it front and center. And I had lost that. I had got wrapped up in a number of different things, allowed work to kind of suck me into too many things, allowed other things to I'd say yes to when I really should be saying no to. And so it was a combination of a lot of different things. And then, of course, COVID came along. So, yeah, I kind of lost. The why was still there. It was just not front and center. It wasn't a priority. I wasn't making myself a priority. And over the years, that's, unless you consciously do it all the time, you so easily get sucked into other things that are just really not important. And so, that's kind of what happened. I wasn't putting everything first. I was still doing the workouts. Then COVID came along and it made it a lot more difficult. I was doing, to start the first couple of months of that, like 16, 18-hour days. So my sleep was all messed up.
Because you work in an emergency capacity in the airport in Colorado.
Right.
Right.
Emergency management. So, when it became a thing, I had a job to do. And at the time, I was the only one that could do that job. So I was training other people at the same time. But we all had specific roles to do. So, and I'm also involved in the continuity planning, which is a big piece. So not only was it the response, but it was also, doing parts of the continuity planning, which is be able to keep essential functions going. So got a lot involved with that and just kind of lost track. And that does, a lot of different things. Life, I guess, that was really, to sum it up, I mean, in a single word, life gets in the way and lost the focus of keeping myself first. And so, yep, that's kind of what it was.
And so you were working with me and you had told me, what did you tell me about how our coaching calls were helping you?
So we'd have a good call and, I'd leave that call with a lot of enthusiasm to, get things done and get back on it again. And then, it would last for about a day or so. And I call it the vision that, it got lost in all the noise of day-to-day stuff again. And that looking back now, that seemed to be the pattern. I'd be on track for a day or two, and then it was like stuff got in the way, and sleep patterns were disrupted, and that messed up my day, and and that was the cycle. I mean, pretty much that seemed to be.
And what we ended up doing, or what we ended up finding out, was that you were having a great experience with my coaching. We had gotten you down to 40 pounds, but it just wasn't enough because it would last for the coaching call would last for a few days, but you needed some supplementary some supplements, if you will, to help you stay in a positive emotional state to move forward with your goals. And at one point, you wanted to quit coaching. And I was like, can you talk about that? You wanted to quit coaching. And you never get, when I said, like I told you during our coaching call yesterday, I was like, when I know someone really is gone is when they end the communication. But I still ask you, I'm like, Nick, totally cool if you want to stop coaching, if you want to stop working together, but let's have a call, let's talk about it. And then during that call, you had already, gotten back on track. But can you talk about like wanting to quit, wanting to give up, and what happened as a result of you not giving up?
That I want to quit conversation was the culmination of, what was it, 4 months, 5 months of COVID stuff. The stress of that building up and not having proper outlets. I've dealt with situations like that before, and the outlet's always been there as physical activity. And, with gyms closed, it was really limited what we could do. And so it just built up. Right? I'd come home exhausted, not want to do anything, hadn't been able to do a lot of extra walking. So everything just built up, the mental stress of everything, the physical stress of everything. And it built to the point where I, in my head, had said, you know what, it's not working. I've struggled with weight my entire life. That's the way it's going to be. And, I'm wasting your time. I'm not getting anywhere. All those kind of negative things were in my head. All right. It doesn't matter what I do. I seem to be eating right, but it doesn't make a difference. I'm trying to do the extra steps. Can't always get in the extra stuff I wanted to do. I think at that point I'd been starting to kind of walk around the block in the evening, but that was hurting. Things started to hurt again. Joints started to hurt. And so it was the culmination of everything. And I got in my head that it didn't matter what I did, it wasn't going to work. And that's where I was that day when I had that call with you.
And what would you say, so because I want to get to the advice, because I know someone out there listening right now is feeling the same way that you're feeling, and they want to give up. They're like, there's no way out of this. And
was feeling.
Was feeling. Absolutely. Thanks for the correction. So you're like, hey man, not anymore. So what I want to get to, I think also what's important to know is that not only do you have this profession, this career in emergency planning, emergency management, but you also have a growing side hustle, side business, and that is just starting to explode. So you had all these opportunities. What would have happened had you would have, went with that line, went with that story that there's no way that any of this is going to ever work?
None of the steps that I took after that call that we had, I would have not taken those steps. There were a couple of different things that I did, but I wouldn't have done them. And the opportunities, and we briefly before we started the podcast, something else happened yesterday, and so it's been every.
What happened yesterday?
I've got a good friend who's an author and pretty well known, does podcasts and has got a Patreon membership group. And so every week he gets on. We were on last night, and same last week. He is pushing, he's pushing people to my webpage, which I finally got up after having the domain for over, I think, 18 months. And so I'd finally got that up, and he's like, hey, everybody, go to Nick's webpage. He's got the answers to your questions that you have. And last week there was like 20 or 30 people. Last night after the call, and again this morning, there's a whole bunch more. And I've got some pieces I need to finish on the webpage. And so, that is a priority, and people are asking questions and they want information, and I'm pushing content to the page as fast as I can. I've got a lot already done, but it's that whole piece of pushing it up. So it's exploded. I mean, that's just one piece. There's the book thing too that's got going again that I'm excited about. Is again, I've got to be mindful and planning of my time to get stuff done and not let other stuff get in the way. I mean, that's the big thing. It's all comes down to time management and putting effort where it needs to be, but also the whole thing about keeping the focus right in front of you of what it is your goals are and why you're doing it. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting several weeks.
And what's fascinating about that for me, even though I've personally experienced this, is how fast you can turn your life around from being in a state where you're looking around, you're like, man, I am hopeless. There is nothing I can do here. I feel defeated. I feel kicked in the teeth. I feel like I've fallen down and I don't know if I have the strength to get up. And then, a few weeks later, you're like, man, business is going great. Everything's going great. I got this opportunity and that opportunity. What did you learn from going from feeling stuck and almost wanting to give up with everything? And what lessons did you take away from pushing through that point where you wanted to give up?
Well, so I won't say the strange thing, the or annoying, maybe not even the right word, but it's stuff I knew. It's stuff I've done before and I did before, and for whatever reason I stopped doing it. And once that, I won't say epiphany, but something like that happened, it was like I should have been doing this a long time ago, and I need to make sure that I keep on track with it and keep doing it, and I have the tools to do it. And I went back through some archived hard drive and is when I have these programs, I've done these programs, they've worked before. I don't know why I stopped doing it. One of the tools that I learned many, many years ago and do all the time now, but and a lot of other stuff is a thing called mind mapping. And I have done that, and I found some from years ago of what my goals were and stuff like that. And so it's keeping that front and centered. And now my office desk area has, it's got that stuff on the wall and the why, I'm doing stuff. And I just don't know why I got out of it, got sucked into life and not making me a priority. I was making work and other stuff priorities and not me. And yourself has to come first. At the beginning of the day, carve out time, and that time is that's your time. And so, the lesson is you got to keep that stuff right in front of you all the time. Otherwise, it just gets covered up with other stuff.
Yeah. And if you remember, because during our coaching call, I was asking a bunch of questions because I wanted you to clarify what that shift was that happened for you, because but in part, I was like, man, I'm really curious too. And so what happened was, I remember asking you, okay, Nick, so things have been going a certain way, and then you were stuck, weren't losing weight, weren't doing this, weren't doing that, weren't getting things done, feeling stressed, not sleeping well, not exercising. And then now you lost weight. I think you lost like 8 pounds in like a week or something like that, or a week and a half or 2 weeks, something like that. And after being in this holding pattern and after knowing what to do, right, but not doing it. And you had said to me, well, I did Tony Robbins' 7-day challenge, comeback challenge, which is a personal development challenge. Everyone here should check it out. Tony is doing some awesome stuff with that. And I watched some of the recordings. It's great information, very inspiring, very motivating, and good content, like good philosophies that you can apply into your life that can shift your mood, shift where you are right away. And you also said you were listening to the Jocko Willink book, which I recommended, but you're like, man, I love Jocko, but his voice is a bit dry, right? His delivery is a bit dry. Then you started listening to a book from the guy who started Black Rifle Coffee, and he's just a funny guy. I remember he had a video advertisement, and I remember, like, if I'm thinking of the same guy, it was hilarious. And you started listening to his book. And it was just that and then you stopped doing some things. And then you put up visual reminders in photo frames, creative vision boards. Can you just walk us through some of the strategies, some of what you started doing, the strategies that you started doing, and also what you stopped doing to create the shift? This episode is sponsored by Organifi. Do you want to know a secret that all my coaching clients follow? It's really simple, but powerful. Add vegetables into each meal. But let's be honest, most of us, including myself, don't eat the recommended servings of vegetables and fruits each day. So for those of us who are on the go or have trouble eating healthy, having a greens powder makes it easy to get your greens in every single day, no matter how busy you are. And that's why I use and recommend Organifi green juice, a superfood powder that you just add water to so that you can get your greens in even when you're on the go. The best thing about Organifi green juice is that it actually tastes great. But don't believe me, try it for yourself. And use the code TED20, that's capital TED, the number 20, at www.organifi.com. That's Organifi.com to receive 20% off your first order. But hurry, this is a limited time discount for Legendary Life listeners. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah, so I'd read a lot of Tony Robbins stuff before and done some of his courses and stuff. Never done one of the in-person ones, and I've always wanted to do one of his in-person courses. It's been something I want to do for many, many years as far as I can remember. And you recommended Jocko. Listen to Jocko. I liked some of the stuff that was in there, but like you said, dry delivery. And Matt Best is the guy's name that was co-founder of Black Rifle Coffee. And I'd seen a lot of his videos, and he's been a lot on YouTube before he did a book. And it popped up in my audiobook thing. It was one of the ones that was up there. And I'm like, I keep thinking about listening to it. I don't normally get a lot of time to listen, but because usually my commute to work is like 10 minutes. So I got the audiobook and I started listening to it. And it was the same weekend I was going camping. And so it was like an hour or two drive out there. And so I started listening to it, and his delivery is hilarious. There was just something about it and the opportunities that he was looking for and it presented and dived in with both feet. And having that driving and goal mindset, right? It got to do something. And if you're not, I think that's one of Tony Robbins' phrases. If you're not achieving stuff, if you're not advancing, then that's your whole purpose, is to advance. And that's where you see that. I see that with people in a job. If you don't have job advancement, people typically aren't going to stay. And so that whole thing about advancement, and then the Tony Robbins course came up that I was able to get into the 7-day. It was supposed to be an hour a day for 7 days, and it ended up being like a couple hours a day because apparently he's notorious for not keeping to a schedule and going very much longer. And that there was stuff in there that just resonated with me. It's things I'd heard before from him, but it just resonated with me in such a way that there was an emotional response to some of that stuff. And so through doing that, I got the opportunity to get into he's doing a virtual Unleash the Power Within, which is his 4-day course seminar workshop that he does. So I managed to get into that. And then he's also there's a documentary type thing, I'm Not Your Guru, that's on Netflix. And I watched that too. And just the part of it's that emotional connection with stuff. And you have to have that too. That's all part of that whole mindset. And so there was a lot of things that I carved out the time. As soon as the gym opened up at my building complex here, I managed to get in and do some cardio stuff. And then my own gym opened up, and I've gone in there quite a few times. I've got back to doing the band workouts, and I've noticed just in the last week that there's a significant increase in what I've been able to do. And so, and then keeping stuff on the wall in front of me, I've got, I had a bunch of cards here anyway, like 5x4 cards or whatever, and just stuff I wrote on them. Either it's phrases of his or a modification, something else, a goal of how much I want to lose and by when, being specific with a goal planning. I've got a couple of mind maps up on the wall of what I need to do as far as the webpage goes, what I need to do with the book and where that needs to go. And it's in front of me. And so it's, as soon as I walk in, it's right in front of my face. And so I make that a priority now. Yes, my schedule varies each day, so I can't always be consistent on the same time of day, but I'm going to do this. It's going to get done. And the other thing was, and we talked about this yesterday on our coaching call, this last week hasn't fluctuated much as far as the weight goes, but that's just one metric. And before I'd get stuck on that metric, I'd look at that scale and go, I'm not getting anywhere. Whereas the last couple of weeks, it's like, I feel stronger. I have more energy. I've actually stopped drinking coffee, and it wasn't for any particular reason, but it was around 2 weeks ago now. One day, I think it was like when you and I were talking, it was like, I've been making coffee and I'm drinking maybe 3-4 sips of it, and the rest just don't feel like having. And I haven't had any for a couple of weeks. And I'm not saying coffee's good or bad or anything else or caffeine, but it's just something that changed. I don't have I'll call it an addictive gene. I've always been able to either take something or leave something, whether it's, having a drink every now and again or not having a drink for years, coffee, tea, whatever. So that's never been a thing. And I guess sometimes that can be a negative in that I don't necessarily get addicted to working out, but I do. That's the one thing I did find and do remember from years ago, that getting that adrenaline and, from doing stuff in the gym. I just have to be smarter now than I was years ago, because I got some injuries, and so I got to be smarter about it. But at the same time, I've got to go. I've got to go to the gym, or I've got to make sure I do the workout here with the bands. And so it's just been a complete mindset change. I mean, you kind of commented, it was kind of like a switch, and you just got to find what your switch is, I guess. For me, it was a combination of listening to that book and doing the 7 days with Tony Robbins. And now I'm excited to do the other 4 days, and pulled out some older stuff that I had of his and started going back through that and go, I've got this. I got to keep going. I've got these 2 major business type opportunities or career opportunities, whatever you want to call them. And I got to grab them and keep going with them.
What's interesting for me, being on the other side of this and helping people like you, is I have a client, Jeff. Shout out to you, Jeff. Jeff I was actually part of my coaching group for 3 months. And then he did a follow-up coaching experience with me, I'll say. But I only talk to him once a month, right? And right now we're doing a situation where I'm only talking to him once a month because he feels like that's all he needed. And judging by his results, it's clear that that's all he did need. Now, could he get a little bit more extra if he was working with me every week? Yeah, maybe. But for Jeff, he doesn't really need more than that. And need being the key word, and need also being defined as the results that we get. Now, you, Nick, you're in a different situation. Not only did you need me once a week to get your breakthrough, but you needed additional help in addition to working with me. And also you work with Giselle. We got Giselle in there to help you out with some of the business stuff that you're working on, because Giselle is brilliant.
Yeah.
but, and for me, the lesson is, and for me, I'm different too. Like I'm working, I do therapy once a week. That's kind of my coaching. I've done some work with a neuropsychologist recently, but that was more on the tactical level and learning some cool stuff, but not necessarily going down that deeper, like fix your life type of situation. That's more what I do with my therapist. And also I'm part of an entrepreneurial coaching group where we talk a lot actually about this stuff and not as much about business as you might think. And what comes up for me is like, I see people telling themselves stories about like, oh, I shouldn't need this or I need that. Or it's like what I believe, and I'm interested to hear your viewpoint on this, is like, we need to be honest with the results that we're getting. We need to be honest about the strategies that we're implementing, the actions, habits, behaviors, beliefs, and what is that getting us right now? Because a lot of people, all they're doing is listening to a podcast and it makes them feel good, or else they wouldn't keep listening. They listen to this podcast, Tim Ferriss's podcast, Ben Greenfield's podcast, who else? Art of Charm's podcast. But it's like, what are the results of listening to that podcast? And if it just makes you feel good, but then you go back to your life and then nothing has changed, there's no measurable results, you need to reevaluate it. Likewise, even if you're working with a coach and you're not getting the results that you want, you got to look at, okay, well, what else do I need? Is that even the right coach for me, right? Is that even the right coach for me? How did you, by the way, here's a good question that puts me on the spot. How are you sure that I'm the right coach for you, even though you got results at first, but, then you hit this plateau and it took something else outside of our coaching experience, our weekly coaching calls for you to get to the next step?
So initially, the driver for me getting in touch with you was pain. It's almost 3 years now, I think. I had both knees replaced. One I knew was bad. They'd given me 3 years, and the other one didn't know there was anything wrong with it. I'd been getting around fine, and then one day I had a close encounter with a deer. It decided to run into the side of my car, and so the action of me slamming the clutch and the brake in was enough to finish off the knees. So post-surgery, I did the physical therapy thing, but even a year late after the surgery, I was still using a stick to get around with. I had still just mobility and stiffness, and I've got a chronic back issue anyway. And so one just aggravates the other. And so that was my catalyst for reaching out to you, because I know you've worked with injuries before. And so the results that we had, I think it was within like 3 months. I was able to walk without a stick, without any discomfort. And so, you know what the right injuries are, the right exercises to rehab those injuries. And we saw results. It's my end that kind of let the game down on, when hitting that slump and not pushing through it and not giving up, not giving up on me, when we've had those calls and I'm like, what, I'm not getting anywhere and just not giving up. And as we did yesterday, it's like, we're trying now that we can get back in the gym, we're trying a new different type of exercise tomorrow, if that stuff arrives today.
Oh, the blood flow restriction training.
Yeah. So, I'm kind of excited to try that because, I can get in the gym and I can push an awful lot of weight with my legs. I can do an awful lot on a leg press, which makes me feel good. It makes me feel really good, but then it creates stiffness. But so I'm kind of looking forward to that stuff too, and getting my back stronger. I mean, I had an episode a few weeks ago, and I think it was around the whole same time that I was having that stuck point, and that was the first time I'd really had a back issue in a year. And so, I saw my back doc and the other day, and she was amazed that with the condition of my back that I don't have to get an epidural every quarter. They're like, you can do this every 3 months if you need to. And I'm like, nope, not going to do that. And so she was actually, amazed with my flexibility. And, I can actually touch my toes, which I didn't even think, because I'd never tried to do it recently. But, she had me do that, and I was able to do that. And I was like, damn, even though I feel stiff and the back feels stiff at times, I'm now seeing those improvements again. I'm feeling those improvements, doing the exercises. It's results driven. I mean, everything's results driven, and realizing that the results on my end are up to me. You've given me the tools to do it and the knowledge to do it, and to with the exercises and be able to track the exercises and all that other stuff. But it's having the right tools that work. And when we see that something wasn't working, or, it's okay, let's change it. Let's, for your injuries or, your issues, let's see if this works any better, and get some better results. So it's not doing necessarily the same stuff all the time. It's, adapt and improvise, modify, whatever you want to call it.
Love it, man. And listen, I just had a bit of a idea pop in, and I'll share it with you right now. Why not? One of the things I'd like to implement with you, since you're on such a roll right now, if we could get you to do maybe a 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, like a 4-day-a-week program with resistance training using the blood flow restriction technique, I would love to see the results of that. Just like a 30-minute workout 4 times a week, 2 days on, 1 day off.
Yeah.
Some type of schedule like that. I bet, because now you have the fire, now you have a gym open, because you're a bit limited with the types of training that you could do on your own, partly because of your joint limitations, mobility limitations. But now that you have the gym open, man, I want to rock and roll. What can we say? Because I know we're going to have you back here, and I want to wrap this up. But what, for those people who are listening, what is your goal? You said you had your weight goal on in front of you. What is that goal? And by when do you want to achieve it?
50 pounds of fat by the end of this year, and 20 pounds by the 1st of September. So short-term, medium-term goals, and keep it off. And that's one of the things that we had looked at, is doing the DEXA scan, because sometimes that number, and we'd seen that with one of them, even though the weight number didn't change, the composition did. And it was I don't remember the numbers now, but it was actually quite significant, because I got frustrated with not losing weight. And I think I've had 3 now. But when had one, it was like, that was quite a significant composition change, a lot more than the actual weight loss was. And so that's another tool, that, and having to tighten the belt up, and pants sliding down, and shirts hanging off, and, things like that.
Love it. So we can do a catch up at the end of the year and see if that you hit your goal.
Yeah, it's pretty.
How about that?
It's pretty ambitious, but we'll get there.
I don't think it is. Yeah. I think that's totally doable. 6 months, 50 pounds.
Yeah, I thought it was. Man. I thought it was pretty reasonable. It still looks.
I think that's reasonable.
It still looks a big number up there, but
as Tony Robbins says, you got to make your goals big.
That's right.
But physiologically, with where you're at now, that's totally possible. So let's go for it. We're going to do this again at the end of the year, and catch back up, or we'll just catch back up when you've made this happen. Maybe you even hit that goal beforehand. And for those people, why don't you, for those people who are interested in preparedness and prepping and, preparing for emergencies and that type of thing, and making sure that you have, all these things available for you, why not throw out your website for those people who are interested in that?
Sure. It's fortunefavorstheprepared.com. So Fortune Favors the Prepared. So if you're
fortunefavorstheprepared.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, you're back in hurricane area now, so
Exactly. We should probably have
where's the earthquakes now? Hurricanes, right?
Yeah. We're gonna. So I'm not gonna be here long, I don't think. But and hurricane. Hopefully, I'll leave before the hurricane season starts to pick up. But if I'm here, yeah, for sure.
And I missed a volcano by like a day.
Oh, in the Philippines, that's right.
That was just again fortunate.
Yeah, Nick, I just can't. Thanks so much for coming on today. I can't wait to catch up with you to see how your business has progressed since this breakthrough moment, to see how your weight loss has progressed, and to see where you're at. And man, I just know there's big things ahead for you, Nick, not because of any other reason, but because of all the hard work you've done over the years, all the talent and skills you've developed, and all the ways that you can help people. And I know you helped a lot of people today by sharing your stories. So thank you so much for sharing that. And just always a pleasure to connect with you. And it's been an honor working with you, even through the tough moments that we both experienced.
Yep, it's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, Nick, have a great one. And I'll speak to you on our next call.
All right. Look forward to it. Take care.
That wraps up another episode of the Legendary Life Podcast. Now, I want to ask you, what was your big takeaway from today's episode? What was the big aha moment for you? What is the thing that you're going to take action on after having listened to this episode, so that you take the information, translate it into action, because the actions are what leads to transformation. You may transform your state for a short term by listening to this podcast, but if you want true transformation in your life, that information needs to turn into actions, into habits, into something. So how are you going to move the needle forward? What are you going to take action on after having spent 46 minutes listening to this episode? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. And again, if you want to experience a week of coaching with me, where people lose 1, 2, 3, and even up to 4 pounds in 1 week, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/challenge. We're going to run this challenge every 4 to 6 weeks, and it's first come, first serve. We only take about 50 people at a time. So if you're interested, sign up now, or you will be on the waiting list. Well, that's it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed listening to Nick's story as much as I did. And have a great week, and I will speak to you on Friday.